Before we get to the chapter review, some other exciting news in the world of the 100 Girlfriends series. This past weekend there was an event called Love for Family that promised updates to the series as well as offering a ton of merch. And as we predicted, we got the official announcement for Season 2 of the anime, confirmed to begin airing in January of 2025. If you didn't watch the very first 100 Girlfriends video I made on this channel, that is where I predicted what chapters will most likely get animated and which ones will get cut. So when that season airs, it will almost be a year since the release of that video, and we will finally see how good my prediction skills were. So I want to ask all of you, would you want me to also do reviews of the episodes as they come out, see how I feel about them as an adaptation, and compare the episode to the chapters they are based on? This is actually going to be a first for me. The 100 Girlfriends Season 2 will be the first manga that I read before it gets animated. Maybe at the end of the season I'll keep up the tradition and make a Season 3 prediction list. We'll see. In the meantime, let's look at this poster. What's fun about this announcement poster, not only do we get some great new shots of the confirmed Season 2 girlfriends of Kurumi, Mei, Iku, Mimimi, and Meimei, but all the references to future girlfriends as well, all the way up to girlfriend 25 Tama Nekonari. Let's point them out for some funsies. Starting in the top left corner next to Kurumi, we have Uto's hat and Yamamei's hair butterflies. On the other side of Iku, we have Momiji's hair bow and Aira's dog tag. Right below Mimimi's naturally beautiful self, you can see Momoha's bottle of sake, Akko's band, and Yaku's sandal, and Tama's cat ears. Moving to the other side of the poster, we have Kishka's kendo sword, a playing card with a 2 on it for Sue, and Natty's American bandana right below that. And lastly, in the bottom right corner, we can see Rin's violin, Chio's glasses, and Mai's hair jewel thing. I don't know, I'm not a girl, nor do I have hair, so I don't know what these things are called. On top of that, we even seem to have a few hints at future episodes in the poster too, such as the Big Ball of Energy, which is most likely the spirit bomb they make at the end of the Tsundere Beloved trilogy of chapters, which I predicted would be the Season 2 ender. And Hahari's longer than normal hair here might be hinting at the world-ending hair 2-part story, another thing I predicted in the video that they would adapt. Let me know if you want me to cover the anime as well when that begins in January of 2025. Maybe I'll combine chapter reviews and episode reviews into a single video. We'll see when the time comes. We have more than 6 months to wait. Hope you'll stick around by subscribing. Now, on to the chapter review. I'm Moonlight150 from A Slice of Gaming, and this is my quickie review for the 100 Girlfriends manga's latest chapter, Chapter 178, Rentaro's Family World of Unknown Fairy Tales. As always, I won't be going over everything as I encourage you to support the official releases, as well as support the Scanlation teams and all the hard work they do for us for this series. The chapter opens up with Rentaro yet again asking for permission to add another girlfriend. Can you believe I've been doing this for around 10 chapters now, and this is the first time I've reviewed a chapter with his ongoing gag at the beginning of the chapter? Crazy. But we are finally introduced to this character properly with her name, that being Meru Zetsuboda. Also, I just love these big collages of everyone in the corner in an almost chibi-like art style. They're all so adorable. Turns out Himika and Meru know one another as they share a class. Finally, she'll have someone to pal around with after we saw her all by herself in that Usa-chan chapter montage. Also, I love how Tama just asks how many talented people are in this class, and I like this conspiracy that if we get another girlfriend from that same class, they will also be some kind of artistic talent of some kind. Oh, sorry Kiki, I meant abnormal talent. Being the bookworm that she is, Shizuka is a bit starstruck to meet another author of a well-regarded book. But then Meru goes on one of her despair monologues talking about how fairy tales and despair are two sides of the same coin. This triggers a jealous fit out of Himika fearing this new abnormal talent will outshine her, and I do believe we now have a new rivalry in our midst, though I think it's going to be safe to say it's going to be pretty one-sided of only Himika partaking in this rivalry. Kurumi then fears for Shizuka thinking that such a hopeful book like Yumei's Home in the Clouds was made by such a doomy and gloomy author. But instead of having her world fall apart, we see some character development in Shizuka who is now able to mentally handle this kind of shocking revelation. Look at that face. That face just screams, after my last author encounter, this shit ain't nothing. Then the chapter in Meru as a character takes a turn I wasn't expecting. She goes all evangelical on everyone asking if they have heard the good news of fairy tales, saying fairy tales will lead to the salvation of the world. Karane is right with noticing the religion selling spiel. Though the family just kind of brushes the weirdness off and starts talking about how much they like fairy tales, such as Meimei saying that they give her courage, or how Usa-chan says she wishes stuffed toys would come to life like they do in fairy tales, so she wouldn't be so lonely. We also find out Mai is a big fan of medieval Europe, and the fact that Mimimi declared Disney princesses her rivals at only 5 years old. We even have some living fairy tales among the family, as Meru calls them, as she sees Tama as a talking cat right out of a fairy tale, and Yamamei is basically Snow White with her connection to the forest animals. My favorite though has to be this section of Hahari thinking she's too old for fairy tales, only to be reminded that they are for all ages, then ask for Kurumi to convert to fairy taleism, telling her if she signs up that she'll fund all the fairy tale food she can imagine, which of course brings Kurumi on board. And before we move on, I want to call out this upgrade of facial expressions that some characters got, specifically Hahari in the scene. I mean, just look at these. Not to mention Himika's new smug face from earlier. Bravo, Nozawa, bravo. Following that, we have Momiji adding Meru to her catalog of everyone's chest in the family, only to be picked up by Meru and called a mischievous fairy or sprite. And Momiji just flat out calls herself a gropling. This image is just hilarious though. Meru is not a big or strong person at all. Momiji is just that small. After a few more character moments of everyone deciding to convert to fairy taleism, we get a few naysayers out of Karane, Nano, and Mei. Meru then busts out a fairy tale which leaves Karane in tears, and another that helps Nano and Mei learn the whimsy of fairy tales. You know, it's been a while since Akari has done or said anything horny, and right on time there she is. Akari focuses on stories involving kissing the prince and questioning where babies come from in fairy tales. I love this exchange of Meru saying that this smut doesn't belong in fairy tales. But this conversation does lead to this series' favorite of a giant conglomerate of everyone kissing Rentaro. I do love how taken aback Meru is by everyone crowding around him. But it's in this moment everything begins to click for her. She sees Rentaro's family as the world's salvation, which goes right back to a joke I made many videos ago about the cult of Rentaro. It's coming more and more together now. And now they got their preacher! And lastly, before we wrap things up, I just want to call out a couple little details I find fun on the last panel. In the bottom one here, with everyone kissing one another, you can see Usa-chan going tighter as she wants to be crammed in this crowd of people kissing Rentaro. And in the one above that, with everyone smooching one another, just on the left side here of the group with all the other smooches, you see one smack. My own personal little headcanon is that this is my smacking Rentaro for kissing Mei. You know, but that's just me. Interpret it however you want. Then I need to lastly point out this final page. It for some reason gets an upgraded art design. Meru is slightly more detailed, and then we see Rentaro who looks completely different than normal. And look at Ms. Natty here on the back. I wonder if this is some kind of in-joke that's been made in the series a few times, that when they're kissing, everything is more blissful, and the slight change in art style is to reflect that. Meru then calls Rentaro her own fairy tale, and they engage in a nice kiss. Now time for the review. Honestly, a weird start to a new character. Even weirder than Sheena somehow. Don't know how I feel about her just yet. I need to see how she mixes with everyone in regular chapters rather than her own introduction before I make any real calls. But for all that it's worth, I really do like this line of her calling Rentaro her very own fairy tale. It's super sweet and probably one of my favorite love confessions since like Igu's. Don't know how I feel about the whole fairy tale evangelical angle though. We'll have to see how they handle that from here on out. And next chapter looks like we're off to see some flowers, with a new color page in tow. That means we'll be getting our first official look at Matsuri, Sheena, and now Meru in color. Since we've only had stuff like concept art to see them in color, now we'll be able to see how they actually look. And it's not a break week, hooray! It kind of felt like this would have been another time for a break too. So join me next week as we go flower viewing. And in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you all on the next video. And don't forget to check out the Chapter 1 dub. I'll leave a link in the description below. Chapter 2 is now in production.